It was one of those mornings out here in Wyoming where the air just tastes like you bit into a chunk of pure winter. You know what I mean. And even your breath sounds loud under that washed-out sky, gravel singing under your boots for miles. I'm telling you, the kind of morning that should be quiet, peaceful, just you, the fence line, maybe a stray deer in the field if you're lucky, but instead what stopped me wasn't nature. It was a heap of garbage that looked so out of place I thought at. First, it had to be some blown plastic off a hay delivery, just a little mess the wind brought in from somewhere else. But no, as I got close, I saw it. A mountain of busted boards, sharp ends jagged as broken bones, rusted nails curling up, even cracked cinder blocks stacked like somebody tried to bury the whole mess. And on top, a mud-smeared folder, the logo still clear as a bell. Silver Creek HOA. You know that feeling when your gut just drops? That's what happened to me right then, because Silver Creek was that new shiny development a mile east. All identical houses and prim little lawns, folks paying dues for the privilege of being told what color their mailboxes should be. And let's just say, me and their president, Karen Miller, we weren't friends. More like two rams sizing each other up across a fence. She'd shown up the year before with cookies and a smile that was about as real as plastic fruit, talking about community like I hadn't lived here since before half those houses existed. I told her, politely at first, I wasn't interested in joining any group that needed to vote on the color of my barn, and she left with a look like she'd just swallowed a wasp. So there I was, staring at their trash on my land, shaking my head. I climbed back on the ATV and tried to talk myself out of getting worked up, said I'd haul it off next time I brought the flatbed. But, yeah, that didn't happen, because by the next week, that little heap had turned into a landfill, drywall, insulation clinging like spiderwebs, plastic wrap, even empty cement bags blowing powder every time the wind kicked up, and every new day more, like the whole subdivision had decided my fence was their dump. I called Karen. You better believe I did. And when she picked up, her voice was sweet as syrup, but I could hear the rot underneath, said she'd get around to it when the time was right. Asked if it really bothered me, like dumping a construction site on my land was a minor inconvenience. And I'll admit, my voice got a little tight when I told her it was my property, not theirs. We'll see what we can do, she said. And that was that. Just hung up, left me standing there staring at the buzzing screen and smelling someone else's mess on the breeze. A couple weeks passed, and I watched as fresh tire tracks showed up in the gravel every other day, big truck prints pulling right off the county road into my ditch, like they owned the place. I finally got tired of playing nice, so one afternoon I parked the ATV, ducked behind the cottonwoods, and waited. Sure enough, a flatbed Ford rolled up, didn't even bother checking for witnesses, just dumped 2 more loads and drove back towards Silver Creek like nothing mattered. I got the license plate, snapped pictures, and called Karen again, told her I had it all on camera. She laughed, actually laughed, told me I was seeing patterns where there aren't any, said materials get recycled, all sorts of ways during construction, and they'd tidy up when it makes sense. I told her my patience had run out. That's when I called my neighbor, Sam, who'd spent enough years as a lawyer to know how these things go. Jack, he said, document everything. No threats, just evidence. Photos, video, tire tracks, GPS if you can. And stay calm. So I did. I started snapping shots of every new pile, stamped the GPS right on them, and broke out the drone I use for checking the back fields. Flew it up and down the fence twice a day. Got footage of trucks, of guys chucking scrap metal like it was a game of horseshoes. Sam came over, helped me rig up a trail cam high in a cottonwood aimed at the approach. Even called an old friend, Bill, who runs a trucking company, to estimate the tonnage. You could build a house out of this, he said, kicking drywall, or at least make one hell of a bonfire. By this point, the fence line wasn't just an eyesore, it was a record. And, sometimes the best way to get someone to stop crossing a line is to draw it in bold. Sam had another idea. Call the state environmental office, get them to test for hazardous waste, because if that's what they dumped, this would be bigger than a neighborly squabble. It'd be a criminal case. A couple days later, state guys showed up in their white truck, safety vests, masks. They scraped samples, bagged paint chips, took insulation, muttered about shouldn't be near livestock, and lucky you caught it. I kept my mouth shut, just kept collecting evidence. Now, this is where things turn, because once you set a trap, all you have to do is wait for someone to step in it. And sure enough, I did. With Sam, Bill, and Tom, my crew for bad ideas that sometimes work, we planned a little return-to-sender operation. 3 flatbeds, a loader, a pile of signs that said, "Return to owner with love from Huntley Ranch." We picked a cold, moonless night, loaded every scrap back onto those trucks, crept down into Silver Creek, and dumped it all right in the middle of their manicured park. One pile by the playground, one by the fancy new clubhouse, one under the big entry sign. We did it neat, not messy, just enough to make a statement. I snapped a few photos, not for the gram, but for the front page of the paper, you know. By sunrise, the town was buzzing. The Silver Creek Facebook group looked like a circus, residents screaming about terrorism and how their kids couldn't use the playground. But half the comments were asking why the HOA's shipping labels were all over the mess. Local news called before noon, 2 camera crews out by my gate by lunch, and when they asked if I'd dumped the trash, I told them straight. Nothing landed in Silver Creek that didn't come from there first. Then I handed over my mountain of evidence, photos, video, drone shots, even the HOA's own shipping labels. They ate it up. By mid-afternoon, the HOA posted a formal statement blaming unauthorized subcontractors, which was a joke, considering I had photos of their board members' trucks doing the dumping. Next came court. Karen's lawyer tried to claim I was the vandal, that I'd dumped and destroyed community property. The judge, who I know from the county fair pie contest, looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Sam laid out everything: the timeline, the footage, the shipping labels, the state report. Judge ruled in my favor, said it looked to him like I'd just returned property to its rightful owner, and tossed the whole case. Karen stormed out without looking at me, her heels clicking like she was trying to drive nails in the tile. I could see it in her eyes. This wasn't over. For a few days, things went quiet, almost too quiet. Then, just after 1 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the Cottonwoods. I slipped on boots, grabbed the rifle. Out here, you don't go checking on strangers empty-handed, and pulled up the live feed. 4 figures at the fence, one with bolt cutters, another with spray paint, another hauling trash bags. Even in grainy night vision, I knew it was Karen leading the charge. But here's the twist. Those new cameras weren't just for me. They pinged the sheriff directly if someone crossed the line, and less than 5 minutes later, red and blue lights painted the pasture. 2 deputies caught all 4, found more trash in the SUV, even a manila folder in the glove box packed with photos of my ranch and a handwritten list, best times to strike. Yeah, that happened. They cuffed the whole crew, booked them for trespassing, vandalism, dumping, conspiracy, the works. I went out after and shined my flashlight on the barn, saw a thief, spray painted in sloppy red letters. I had to laugh. If that was revenge, it was pretty pathetic, but damage is damage, so I snapped more photos for insurance, patched the fence, and started counting the ways this was about to bite them back. A couple days later, I'm in the sheriff's office with Sam and the county attorney. They're stacking up charges, from vandalism to illegal hazardous waste dumping, and those environmental tests on the trash in the SUV match what was dumped on my land, tying it straight back to Silver Creek HOA. The news broke fast. Every local outlet picked it up. Even the big regional paper ran the story with a shot of Karen in cuffs. The HOA tried to backpedal, said she acted alone, but when a reporter dug up board meeting minutes where they'd openly talked about dodging landfill fees, it was game over. By spring, trial rolled around. Courtroom was packed. Ranchers, townsfolk, Silver Creek residents, you name it. The prosecutor laid out every bit of evidence. Jury barely needed 3 hours to convict. Karen got 8 years and a $180,000 fine. The others 3 to 5 and their own penalties. When the judge brought the gavel down, the sound echoed like thunder after a dry spell, and I finally felt the knot in my chest unwind, just a little. But the fallout for Silver Creek wasn't over. Their leadership gone, fines gutting the HOA's budget, my civil suit for damages looming. It wasn't long before they had to sell off a chunk of their park just to cover the bills. Bill bid on my behalf at the auction, and for pennies on the dollar, I ended up with the prettiest little square of manicured lawn in the subdivision, right across from their fancy clubhouse. 6 months later, I opened the Huntley Museum, antique farm tools, a chunk of that cinder block, one of those infamous return-to-owner signs behind glass, and a framed photo of Karen's mugshot. We drew a crowd bigger than the 4th of July, and when a reporter asked how I felt, I said. Let's just say, I doubt I'll have to worry about HOA trash out here again. If I do, I've got plenty of room left in the display case. That night, I walked the fence line where it all started. New posts gleamed, wires stretched tight, pasture rolling out pure and clean under a Wyoming sky. A cold wind brushed the hay, and I stood there, jacket pulled tight, thinking about how land remembers, and so do I. But even as I stand there, proud of the way it ended, there's a part of me that wonders, what happens the next time a neighbor thinks their mess belongs on someone else's property? Where does the line get drawn between payback and escalation? Out here, justice looks a little different, but the debate about what's right and what's just, that'll go on long after the fence is mended. So tell me, which side do you land on? Where's the line between standing up for yourself and going too far? Drop your take below. Let's see where this community draws the line between justice and revenge.